Today, I am Shanelle PADASAS and I will report about ethics. But before that, let me first recap the definition of business ethics. Business ethics is the application of ethical standards to commercial enterprise. In other words, it is the application of ethical values such as integrity, fairness, honesty, and openness to business behavior. Now let's proceed to individual ethics versus organizational ethics. Individual ethics are those values, attitudes, and behavior patterns that will help you in better decision making. That is why promoting ethical behavior is important through ethical orientation so that the employees can perform accordingly and avoid misdeeds. Meanwhile, organizational ethics refers to ethical values and integrity, which is a driving force of the enterprise. It helps define what the company is and what it stands for. It is also a challenge to leaders to have ethical organization. Ethical values shape the search for opportunities, the design for organizational systems, and the decision-making process. Just like what I mentioned earlier, ethical orientation is a key factor which is conducted by a leader, and they become role model and raise an organization's overall level of ethical behavior. Now let's talk about integrity-based versus compliance-based approach to organizational ethics. Integrity-based approach addresses the issue of ethics in a more comprehensive manner and emphasizes on managerial responsibility for ethical behavior. Meaning, this approach strives to define companies' guiding values, aspirations, and patterns of thought and conduct, while giving employees the leeway to interpret and internalize these values and behave accordingly based on their individual moral compasses. Remember Nordstrom's single rule: use best judgment in all situations. There will be no more additional rules. Compliance-based approach is faced with the prospect of litigation and externally motivated because of the fear of punishment for doing something unlawful. This approach tends to be more restrictive. All employees must follow and act in accordance with set of rules concerning criminal activity, interactions among and between employees and clients, and dealing with business and more. Moving on, a firm must have several key elements to become a highly ethical organization. First key element is role models. Leaders are role models in their organization. To be an effective leader, one must exhibit high ethical standards to promote ethical behavior. Next is corporate credos and codes of conduct. This pertains to a set of guidelines that provide employees the clear understanding of the organization's policies and ethical position. Next is reward and evaluation systems. One way to encourage behavior that promotes an ethical culture is to measure and monitor it, because what gets measured gets done, and what gets rewarded gets repeated. Last key element is policies and procedures. Everyone is expected to behave at high standards at all times. Employees have guidelines on what to do and what to avoid doing so that choices and actions are responsible and right. There are two major avenues through which companies can expand or improve their business: innovation and corporate entrepreneurship. But in this report, we'll focus on innovation. What is innovation? From Latin novus, which means new. It's about making changes by introducing new methods, new ideas, products, and using new knowledge that can add value and create competitive advantage. Innovation can be categorized as either radical or incremental innovations. Radical innovations are focused on developing revolutionary new technologies and business models, which simply means that a company is providing an altogether new approach to meeting customer needs. While incremental innovation seeks to improve existing systems to have a better product. The company's approach is to improve certain dimensions of the product design or production process. In today's competitive environment, firms have only one choice: innovate or die. But what is it that makes innovation so difficult? One factor is that Innovation processes involve so many choices. These choices present five dilemmas that companies must deal with when pursuing innovation. First one is seed versus weeds. Firms must evaluate which innovation projects will probably have more successful result and which shouldn't be pushed through. Experience versus initiative. Who will lead an innovation project better? Is it senior managers who have more experience and credibility but tend to be more risk averse? Or is it mid-level employees who may be innovators themselves and have more enthusiasm? Internal versus external staffing. Is it people inside the firm who have greater social capital nor the organization's culture but may not able to think outside the box? Or is it people outside the firm that are costly to recruit and train and may also have difficulty in building relationships? Building capabilities versus collaborating. Seeking help from other departments or companies may bring resources and experience, but can create dependencies and conflict about sharing benefits. Incremental versus preemptive launch. Incremental launch is less risky, requires fewer resources, but can undermine the project's credibility if too tentative. While preemptive launch requires more resources, but can effectively obtain competitive response. To improve the innovative processes, firms need to cultivate the innovation skills of their managers. And one attribute that needs to be developed is creative intelligence. Creative intelligence is that what emerges when you combine intellect and imagination and you start applying these for progress and improvement. The combination of these two enables you to be a better problem finder, come up with relevant and often surprising new ideas, and create experiments. Creative intelligence allows individuals to respond to change from deeper layers of human insight and potential. 5 traits of the effective innovator. First one is associative. It is the idea that you borrow ideas from one area then use them as inspiration in another. It's like combining different subjects into something entirely new. Second is questioning. Innovators tend to ask more questions, to have additional perspectives with specific viewpoints for more balanced idea. Third is observing. Innovators should get out of the building to observe customer and look deeply on how employees operate in their environment. Next is networking. Networking is about furthering company goals, which means looking for people who have power, influence, and resources to possess knowledge and have the most valued ideas. Last is experimenting. It is about asking yourself about what hypothesis can we test to help us learn something about this problem. That's all. Thank you.